about me, I would never deny my feelings for you.
I wasn't
but
let me tell you.
Go ahead, deny it. Let's
You're the king of feelings. Every time I still had feelings for you, still had.
You can't use me as a buddy. You can't call me when things are.
But you have female friends.
Yeah, but welcome back to the channel. It's your favorite person, John, and his sidekick.
Ayodeji.
You see why I call her sidekick? All she had to do was just say Mary.
My name is
Anyways, you will put the names down below so you'll see. So basically, this is probably gonna be the last video on this album.
One more after this, so it's not too
late. It's a lot, you know. It's a good story, so we love telling it. I'm just gonna jump right into it, not to waste any time. So basically, I think after my friend messaged me and he was like, yada yada yada, you know, what did you do? Blah blah blah. You messed up big time. You know, I was like, oh my god. Then I tried to reach out to her sister because it felt like the sister had more. She was holding on to the hurt more than she was at that time.
No, I deleted you from my life permanently.
But here you are.
I told you I'm here.
Anyways, but then every single, avenue of me trying to reach out to the sister, she was declining. Even though we were quite good friends when we were in school.
Were you?
When we were in school, but then, it was, I wasn't making any headway in that department. So what happened afterwards? Wait, from my perspective, I think I had a discussion with my mom, about you. And I was like, look, don't tell her mom anything. I just had a discussion because up until that moment, after she knew that we were kind of together. Anyways, so spoke to her about her, at that time I had seen current picture or recent picture. I was like, oh god, she's looking fire, you know what I'm saying? So I was feeling some type of way about, the entire breakup and all of that.
Let me remind you of what happened. So you came to my school, right? You came to pick me. We went to your you are jumping. You are like I'm not jumping anything.
You are like
I
this.
left. No, hold on.
This. Before I came to pick you in school to take you to my friend's house. Yes.
Your friend's house?
What were you going to say?
To your house. I went to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner at your house.
Wait, even before then, we had to see somehow, right?
Yeah, so you used to come down to the school.
You see what I'm saying? So all the times I was coming down to the school, first thing I did was to apologize for what happened.
You never apologized for what happened.
Come on. That's the only thing you don't remember in this whole
I don't remember any apology, even till date. I feel like you can't.
Even to date.
Somebody that used a jazz on me.
Almost every month or every time you bring up our breakup back in 2016, I always tell you, I've said I'm sorry like countless times.
I don't remember the apology, but here's what happened. You used to come over to school and then you would sit for hours. I don't know what you were looking for. You sit for hours in your car and then we'll be gisting. Well, I knew that was never going to happen.
As if I was the only one in the car. We were both in the car.
Are you sure I was there?
Chatting, talking, trying to reconnect, trying to, you know what I'm saying?
I don't blame you. But anyway, you did that and then one day, you picked me up from that church in Ilorin, CLC, and then took me to your house. I ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I even slept in between, took siesta. Yeah. Then your
That was a
friend
weird time.
invited us to dinner.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Yes, that was where it scattered again. Your friend invited us to dinner.
Okay, so we were, for context, we were making its way. From my perspective, I felt we were beginning. I was getting somewhere at least.
Okay.
Coming from not speaking at all to coming as a foodie to eat in my house.
You invited me.
Okay, yes, I invited you, but you didn't have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But
1-0.
So I mean, I felt like, okay, we're getting someplace. She even slept in my room that day. You know, my mom was home, nothing happened. And then, you know, I had an invitation from my friend, you know, for dinner, I guess. So I went to our school because she was doing masters. I picked her up. Then we went to my friend's place. We had an amazing time.
Yeah, until they ruined it. So I was going to drop me back in the hostel. And what happened?
I don't know. It's your story too.
So there's like a barricade. What do you call that thing? These guys, security guys, put barricade between. They just put barricade on the road, right? For you to pass, I think there's like a limit, 7 p.m. If you don't drive past that thing by 7 p.m., you're not allowed to go further. We got there, and this guy said, if you beg them, they would allow you drop me in front of my hostel because it was a long walk. If he had dropped me there, this guy said, "Oh, I don't beg."
Okay. In my defense, number one, we are well within the school, not just the school premises. We are at the hostel area, so it was, you know, not a long walk. It was just like a stroll. Like people were walking, you know, that night, you know. Yes, that's number one. Number two was, I mean, if you know Nigerian security guys, Nigerian police, I try to stay away from having anything to do with them.
But then for this, just because you were trying to get back with me, you didn't think that...
I didn't think it was going to be a big deal, honestly. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal because I wasn't in the mood to give them bribe that night. That was one. And I didn't want a situation where, like, you know, I'm begging and then they are, you know, embarrassing me or anything like that. I just don't want to go through all that. So I was just like, let's just respect their rules.
Yeah, so it made me drop there and then I walked to my
I didn't make you drop there. I
walked to my hostel, got to the hostel and texted and said, "This is never going to work. Don't ever text or call me ever again." And I blocked him.
And I was surprised. I was like,
I added you 1.
What just happened?
This one 0.
I felt we had an amazing night, you know, and I felt like everything was heading in the right direction. But then she decided to blow me off. So that was 2018.
Yeah, and then I moved to Lagos all of a sudden. So I got to Lagos one day. At work, your mom called and said, "Hi, Adej, I've not seen you in a while. What happened?" I said,
you know, one thing about mothers, when you tell them not to do a thing, that is exact time they'll feel like, yeah, this is the best thing I can do.
I was like, "Oh yeah, I moved to Lagos. Didn't my mom tell you?" She said, "Oh yeah, I think she mentioned something like that. She just wants to talk to me about, you know who." And then we talked. She said, "What happened?" Blah blah blah. I wanted to start telling her a story, and then she told me, "Oh, I know everything that happened." And I'm like, "Then why are you calling me? Why are we having this conversation?" And then she said, "Oh, it's beside me. Let me give him the phone." And I'm like, I don't do mommy's voice. I don't want to be involved in this. And then I just told her, okay, I'll call him because I promised you that I'll call him. So like a few minutes after, I called and said, "I promised your mom I was going to call you. This is me calling you. Please tell her I've called you." And then they was like, "Oh, this is it. This is it. Is this how it is now?" What were you expecting?
God. Disclaimer, after this video, she's going to make some crazy, stupid noises, thinking
That's how
like
you used to
that.
sound.
Please let it be known, let the record show. I've never sounded like that in my entire adult life. I don't know, maybe she's referring to some cartoon character or something.
No, for real, that's how you used to sound.
Anyways, go on with the story.
And then I said, yeah, that's it. I promised your mom I was going to call you. I didn't tell her I was going to reconcile with you.
Right. Anyways, after that, I had enough. I was in my head. I'm like, I tried to make it work. I guess it's just not gonna work. So
Bless your heart.
2019.
We didn't talk.
Yeah, we didn't talk at all because I was with somebody else. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I moved on. I was with someone else. And then 2020, I moved to Canada. In the thick of the COVID.
And it was bored.
Whatever.
So you thought,
yeah. So
let's try my luck again.
Now my story or not your story.
No, my story now.
No, this is Canada. This is Canadian story. This is my story. Anyways, so I was bored.
Wait, so you were actually bored?
No, I mean everybody knew COVID was boring, social distancing. I wasn't seeing too many people. So obviously most of the communication was online, and I had a phone number, for some reason.
For some reason.
I called her, started chatting, for some reason she unblocked me. Anyways, we started chatting, and then after a while we started calling.
You were calling me, I wasn't calling you.
Anyway, she was falling for the guy again. From my perspective, because the calls were, it was like an everyday kind of a call. And then, because I remember it was winter in Canada. For some reason, everything just came to a stop. And like, no calls, no nothing, everything it went like best, and I was surprised. But then what happened? I think. What did you tell me?
I told you that there was a guy I liked.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I needed advice on, and then
No. That one was 2021. 2020, everything just stopped.
Well, I just stopped replying you.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give this guy
no explanation, nothing. So, but I was like, okay, we move. Then in 2021, what happened in 2021?
We started texting again.
Yeah.
And then I told you about the guy I was liking.
Yeah.
And I asked for an advice.
Yeah, she asked me for an advice. As you see my life.
The next thing, he sent like 2 texts, and then my texts were not delivering. And I was like, wait, did you block me?
No. So what happened was, okay, she had asked me for the advice. I was just coming back from work that day. I was at the train station. Then I think she had texted me, yeah. So I read the text or something like that. So I felt that there was something wrong, like I was really, really concerned. So I called her, and then she told me that there's this guy, blah, 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 I need your advice. I was taken aback. I couldn't even give any advice. I was just like, you know what, I'm in the public transport right now. Once I get home, I'm gonna call you, we're gonna talk or something like that. But then all the while I was in the bus going back home, I was just wondering, like, hey, am I now friend zoned or? Because I mean, that's one thing I don't do. I don't do friend zone. It's either
pride.
It's not pride. It's just me. So I'm like, okay, fine. Since she wants the advice, I'm gonna give the advice, right? So once I got home and I got myself together, I think I texted you, right? So I just sent a long text. I gave her the advice, and I was like, you know what? This is not going to work for me. I understand, blah, 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 blah. But then this is going to be the last conversation between me and you, because I don't want to be friend zoned. It's either I'm with you or I'm not. You can't use me as a buddy. You can't call me when things are. I was like, yeah, this is not gonna work, especially because I still had feelings for her, right? And I wanted to get back with her, and then she's telling me about another guy. I was like, nah, I can't do that.
But the funny thing is, I wasn't lying about the other guy.
I understand. I understand that you weren't lying about the other guy, but I just didn't want to be the guy that would, be waiting for your relationship to mess up before. So I was like, nah, I can't do that. So don't call me. I just blocked her. So what happened?
Anyway, so we had a truce not to block each other again.
Yeah.
And then he said, let's see how it goes. We'll just keep talking. So I was like, okay.
Okay. I think we started out as friends. Talking, just chatting, talking.
In 2021.
In 2021. After we unblocked each other, right?
After you unblocked him.
Fine.
Okay.
And then we were like, I was like, let's have a pact that, we're not going to block each other.
We just remained friends.
Yeah, we were chatting, and it was getting obvious that we still have feelings for each other.
No, it was getting obvious that you still had feelings for me.
You see, here's one thing. One thing about me, I will never deny my feelings for you.
I wasn't let me tell you. No, hold on.
Go ahead, deny it.
Let's the king of feelings. Every time I still had feelings for you, I didn't have feelings for you. Close your mouth. I didn't have feelings for you. We were just talking, and then I was preparing for an exam. One night I had spoken to, I wanted to postpone the exam, and then when I spoke to you, you said, oh, just leave everything you're doing, just take a walk, blah, 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 blah. It was such a sweet gesture, right? And I thought, oh, this guy has small sense still. But I still knew that if anything was going to happen between me and you, I had to break up my relationship, take some time to heal from the breakup.
Right.
Take time to heal from the breakup, and then we'll proceed. Right. So I broke off the relationship.
Yeah.
And then I think I told you.
She didn't actually want to break up the relationship.
What?
Yeah, because I felt like at the time, I felt like you were unsure of me. So you didn't want to go all in. So it was as if you were like, oh, even though I'm having great conversations with you, you still want to like hang on to the guy that you had, because I'd hurt you before and you didn't want to go through all that again.
Okay, I need to admit, in September 2021, I was one who sent I first.
You see?
But I'm sure it was for a reason.
Yeah, so, I unblocked her, she said hi, and what happened after that?
We started talking.
Okay.
And then you said, let's set ground rules.
You know me, we gotta get this thing right.
You said, let's set ground rules for this our new friendship. And then you had like 4 or 5 rules and said we'll keep adding as we go along.
Yeah, because we had history, so I didn't like the on and off kind of a thing. And I felt like that was as a result of me constantly, asking out and stuff. So I think one of the ground rules was like, you know what, I'm not gonna ask you out. So it's not gonna get awkward, when we're chatting and stuff. Let's just be friends. Let's get to know each other. Blah blah blah.
And then 3 days after, guess who started sending me songs and And then he said, whenever you hear this song, it reminds you of me.
Do you want to go there? Because there are other things we could read that will bring out this thing. But anyways, needless to say, everything quickly developed into, she was feeling me, she was feeling the boy. I was giving her I was giving her vibe, you know what I'm saying?
You're too millennial for my liking.
What do you mean? And what are you?
You're too millennial for my liking.
You are Gen Z? I beg.
Well, forever Gen Z.
Oh, wow. So far your date of birth starts with 19.
I'm not 19.
19.
I'm 25 years.
No, so,
I was born 2000.
Anybody that's over 30 years old is like...
I'm over 30.
Grandmother at this point.
Whatever. Somebody said write to me long epistles. Long epistles.
That was in September, right? So I think in October...
That was in October.
No, you said in September.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So in October, I was like, okay, let me be cute and nice. I'm gonna write some. I called it letters, but obviously it was just long chats. Just telling her about how I still feel.
After making the ground rules.
Yes. No. So. It wasn't like I was asking you out. It was just like saying,
an expression.
Friends, it's just expression. It's just expression of, how I was feeling at the time, But in my mind, I knew I was still in love with her, right? My, what's it called? The idea that I had was that I was going to write 3 letters.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 letters. Was it 3 letters?
Yeah, it was 3.
Yeah, so I wrote the first one.
To ask me out.
Was it?
Yeah, the night of my exam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, then, we're going to skip some parts because,
Why are we skipping some parts?
Okay, if you're not
skipping...
No, let's skip Anyways... So what happened afterwards?
He said, let's go on vacation.
Obviously, she was preparing for, I think, CFA level 2.
Yeah.
So she was super stressed out, She was feeling like she wasn't even going to write the exam. So apart from being, supportive and all that, I was just like, if you could get out of Nigeria for a while, like, where would you like to go? And then after a while we talked, she mentioned some places and then gave her 3 options. I was like Mauritius, Seychelles, and there's one other place
Zanzibar.
I think Zanzibar. Like, what would you like then? Anyway, she picked Mauritius, and then we talked about it.
Yeah, you said before the Mauritius trip, you started asking me about ring sets. I'm like, all up.
Yeah. So I was like, it was gonna be a getaway trip. It was gonna be romantic, anyways. It was gonna be a lot of things. So why not? Okay, so after the entire planning, we're skipping a whole lot because the details is just a lot. Anyway, so I actually had so then I told my mom, about the new this thing and every. And my mom sells clothing and gold stuff,
Gold stuff. Gold jewelry.
Gold jewelry. Because, we wanted to go to Mauritius together. Now, she was in Lagos. I was in Canada here. So instead of me to travel to Mauritius and then she also comes to Mauritius, we decided, or she decided, because she didn't want to travel alone, she decided that I should come to Lagos first, right? Then I was like, if I'm coming to Lagos, then we might as well just go and see our parents. Yes. So I went to Lagos, then both of us traveled to Ilorin together, and then from there we spent a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
I think 1 week or so. Then from there we went back to Lagos, then we flew to, Mauritius. So while we're in Ilorin, that was that was what she was saying about, my mom. She was so subtle, very subtle, But anyways, we had a nice time in Mauritius. I proposed to Mauritius. It was an exciting time, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got back from Mauritius. Did we? We didn't go back to Ilorin, did we?
We did.
We did?
Yeah, because we had our court wedding.
Oh, yeah.
We went back to Ilorin.
That trip was something. Like, we did everything
in May, June.
In 3-4 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Every single thing. Because I knew I was going to go back to Canada, obviously, and I knew that, if we were going to process, or if I was going to bring up to Canada, everything had to start like ASAP.
Yeah.
So from Mauritius, proposing, came back to Lagos, and then traveled to Ilorin. Then my parents and I and my brother, we went to my house. No, I think we went to your house before we traveled to Mauritius, didn't we? Yes.
You and I went to my parents' house, but then...
Yeah, but it wasn't like nothing.
Yeah, it was after we came back from Mauritius, the parents came, we did introduction.
Yeah.
And then the next day we did
our dad was like a little bit upset. Like, it felt like we were rushing everything. Like, what's the rush all about? He didn't understand that, look, this thing is needed for papers and stuff, because he felt he didn't know about the relationship. Like, everything was just happening. It was just happening.
Nobody knew about the relationship.
Yeah, it was just like, we are getting married.
Oh, my own people.
And it's going to be next week. Welcome to your next week. Yeah, it was that chaotic, and oh my god.
Man kept saying, no, you can't get married now.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, my parents were on board already, because I just told them, I was like, look, this is what I need to file the papers, to do this. And they were like, okay, makes sense, right? Because, Canada to Nigeria is not some place you just wake up and be like, oh, I'm going tomorrow, kind of thing. So, but then it was a little bit harder, bringing your dad on board. I felt like we were fighting a battle every single point, So we did the introduction, went to their house. It was just very, very small gathering between both families, no external parties. We just basically talked, and then I think some days later,
it was 2 days after, or the next day, that we had our court.
then we had the court, our legal, joining or whatever. So obviously I had to get the papers, and then some days afterwards I was back in Canada.
Yeah.
And then the wedding date was set. Anyway, so we decided that we're going to get married in the same year, end of the year. So that was 2022. Even though we were like legally married, but in Nigeria, you still have to do traditional wedding, and then still invite people to rejoice with you. So that's what we did in December 2022, and I've been here ever since.
What do you mean?
marriage. No, I was just joking. It's been amazing, having to grow with this beautiful lady. Just doing life together, figuring things out. Obviously, and just trying to be our authentic self.
Sometimes he still pretends.
Yeah, so
no, he has no pretense.
I understand the video is long, super long. We've broken it down into 3, and just watch all the videos. I promise you would love it.
Yeah, you will.
That is our love story. Obviously, we've skipped quite a number of details just because of time and because of protection for some people.
I don't need protection.
No, not only you. I mean, some
these would have gotten messier.
as well, but that's a little bit, about us.
Yeah.
A little bit into our lives, but then you still keep seeing other videos. So
thank you. See you next time.
Like and subscribe.
Bye.
It's already broken from the start.